Sanabi was hands down my game of the year 2023. Everything about it was perfectly to my tastes. The sense of speed, the aesthetic, the awesome mechanics, the endless replayability, and the beautifully engaging story really solidified that it's not just one of my favorite games of the decade, but is one of my favorite 2D action games just in general. Well, it's been over 2 years since I've made my review on the original game, which I will be linking in the description below. And now Wonderpotion have released an all-new, entirely free DLC campaign for the game that might as well be a whole standalone game. The moment it came out, I knew I just had to make a video on it, so this might be a shorter one than usual, but I don't really care. How does it compare to the original game? Well, let's talk about that. Sanabi: A Haunted Day takes place several years before the events of the main game and has you playing as Major Song, who is a relatively minor character in the story all things considered. While the general and base Sanabi is all about using the momentum generated by the swings of your grappling arm to maneuver yourself around, Song instead relies on a completely different kind of movement. For one, she can double jump, but she's also got two different tools at her disposal, a melee chain whip and a shotgun. The chain whip takes forever to actually kill enemies on its own, but if you hit an enemy or target with it mid-air, it recharges your double jump. The shotgun, on the other hand, is your main attack tool, and also the thing that makes this game as fun as it is. I'm sure you people don't need me to explain to you what rocket jumping is, right? Well, this game has shotgun jumping. Just shoot into a direction and you'll be blasted into the opposite direction while launching shrapnel at your enemies. If you hold it down before releasing, Song will also slow down drastically, allowing you to gain more airtime, adjusting positioning, and so on. Though note, time itself doesn't actually slow down, only she does. This is your main damage dealer, and the core of all movement tech in this game. But you can't just spam it. In order to use it again, you need to either land on the ground or a wall in order for Song to reload, adding a layer of strategic timing to every usage mid-air. One of my biggest praises for the original Sanabi is the utter sense of freedom that mastering the tight controls gives you, allowing you to skip massive chunks of stages, optimizing combat sequences and encouraging experimentation. In a lot of ways, I would say that this DLC is theoretically even more ripe for fantastic movement tech. I say theoretically because, well, I'll get to this later. There's two more moves that I gotta explain first. For one, the more melee attacks you land, the more your shotgun gets charged. Once it's fully loaded, your next blast will be strong enough to insta-kill any regular enemy, as well as launching you way farther. Once you're about halfway through the DLC, you also unlock one more ability, a sort of parry that can erase projectiles around you. If you time it properly, you instantly fully charge your shotgun and reactivate your double jump. Unfortunately, this move can be really annoying to use effectively. See, its active range only really covers a circular area a bit away from you. If a bullet is already too close, it does jack shit, and you'll just have to tank it. On most difficulties, this is totally fine, especially since unlike the general, Song has a one-time per checkpoint use heal, which you can activate at any time. Unfortunately, on legend difficulty, where you die from a single hit, it has consistently been the source of all my anger these past few weeks. It wouldn't even be so bad if you could use the environment as shields from enemies, but unfortunately they all shoot right on through. There's also some that you flat out can't parry at all, namely the ones that are entirely red. But this parry has one more mechanic attached to it that really elevates it. If you parry 3 or more bullets at the same time, you temporarily enter overdrive, making you significantly faster, buffing all your attacks and letting you clear some massive gaps early. On a purely fundamental level, this spin-off campaign is fantastic. Song is an extremely fun character, which makes it all the more frustrating that a lot of the level design just doesn't really take advantage of it. Lengthwise, A Haunted Day is about as long as like a little less than maybe half the base game, actually probably closer to like 1/3 or 1/4, but you get the idea. That's actually pretty lengthy for an entirely free DLC, I'd say, but its level design is nowhere near as tight as the originals. Sanabi had a lot of really awesome sequences where you could use the game's mechanics to skip entire chunks of stages or combat rooms, but the DLC only really has like 1 or 2 of those spots. Most of it is just a series of combat rooms you have to clear before you get to progress. And don't get me wrong, Song's combat is really fun, but I miss that sense of freedom you'd get in the original, where thinking outside of the box would get you really far. Now all the experimentation is locked strictly to what's the best order to deal with every enemy in this combat room. I can't begin to name all of the times I pulled some incredibly sick maneuver to cross a giant chasm in the middle of a room, constantly juggling myself from one enemy to the next, only to be stopped dead in my tracks by a big wall I couldn't pass through until I took out all the enemies in the room first. It's a bit of a shame, really, but that by no means means that the level design is bad. It's still airtight. Every enemy is meticulously placed to allow for smooth back-to-back executions, and with how much more versatile Song's moveset is, I genuinely think that experimenting with her could potentially be even more fun than with the general in the base game. And since I'm complaining already, let me talk about another thing I really didn't jive with in this DLC. The original game had like 5 different areas, all of which being extremely visually distinct from one another. It gave each part of the game its own identity, and I really liked that. All of the actual gameplay in A Haunted Day, meanwhile, takes place in the same repetitive-looking grey building, which I can only assume is what every Samsung factory looks like on the inside. I obviously wasn't expecting this DLC to blow me away visually, but a little variety couldn't have hurt. And while we're at it, let me get my last big complaint out of the way as well: the bosses. In the original game, most bosses were perfectly fine. I'd even call them pretty damn fun, actually. They were a neat test of your abilities and varied enough to help break up the pace of the regular stages. Here though, I don't know, Chief. Neither of them are particularly hard once you learn their patterns, but they're very annoying to deal with. The first boss is mostly fine, but the second one, genuine pain in the ass. And on Legend difficulty, I just straight up call it bullshit. But thankfully, you first need to beat the game on any other difficulty anyway to unlock Legend mode, and unless you're insane like me, I doubt you're actually going to bother playing through it on Legend mode. And yeah, that's about all I have to say. So with all of that said and done, is Sanabi a Haunted Day any good? Oh, absolutely. If you've already played through the main game, then you've got absolutely no reason not to play it. Though it might suffer from a lot of the issues that the original game didn't have, they're nowhere near big enough to distract from the overall experience in a significant amount. Movement feels fantastic, Song's kit is incredibly fun to use, and the stage design is as tight as ever. I would highly recommend checking it out alongside the main game, even if it's a bit worse than it. Back when the game first launched, Wonderpotion already announced that Sanabi would be getting a second DLC sometime set after the main game as well. So I'll definitely be looking out for that. I really can't wait to see what else they've got in store, be it Sanabi related or anything else wholly new they put out. That said, if you like this video, I'd appreciate a like and a subscription, maybe even a comment. And I also have a Ko-fi you can donate to help me fund future videos. I wish you all a wonderful morning, day, evening, or night. Cheers.